Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. I'm so grateful for life, thankful, and glad to be here with you this morning as we take another fresh new look at the financial markets. Well, before we kickstart the session, as usual, let's do our daily routine. If you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, I will be grateful that you type in hi in the comment section, as this will let me know that we are all on the same page. And of course, if there are any issues with the sound or the visuals, feel free to let us know in the comment section so that we can make the appropriate adjustments. So thank you very much, as I look forward to your feedback and getting ready for the Extra and Speed Live. So let's see what we have right here in the comment section. I see Dino, I see 942, 635, good morning to you, 6651, 60297, good morning, Carrie, thank you very much. 11028. All right, so I think we are on the same page here, so I want to take this as a confirmation that we are good to go this morning. So once again, I welcome you all to yet another promising edition on the Extra and Speed Live. My name is Sheriff Daramola, and for the next 1 hour, I'm going to be your host, where we shall be reviewing the current market structure. Let's see how the market has been playing out since the beginning of the week. And in fact, in preparation for today's session, I have conducted a comprehensive analysis on all of the assets on our watch list, and in fact, I'm very excited to share with you new, simple, and interesting discoveries that we shall be using to guide our trading activities for today's trading session. And in fact, as usual, you know how we do it, using only simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of all the of price action on these assets. So far this week, we have been monitoring 4 major assets, which are the US All Spot, the USTech100, which is popularly known as the NASDAQ, and of course we have the GBPUSD, the XAUUSD, popularly known as the Gold Spot. For those who are joining us for the first time, you are highly welcome on board. And you might be asking, what is really going on here and what is it that we're doing here? Well, we come together here as a community in anticipation of the New York session on a daily basis, where we come to review how well, if we do have any existing position, look at how well they are doing, and at the same time strategically position ourselves ahead of the New York session. This happens on a daily basis, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, and I would encourage you to stay tuned in and be part of our subsequent session, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how things works here, and eventually be able to use the information you have gathered here to make your own independent trading decision. So once again, you guys are welcome. So with that being said here, let's dive right into the business for today. And as usual, the first thing we normally do is to check on the economic calendar, as we all know that these fundamental factors often manifest on the charts in technical patterns and price movement. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can easily identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns, hereby giving us valuable information that can help us to position ourselves in such a way that we can capitalize on any potential opportunity prior, during, and even after this event. So on the economic calendar, I would like us to do a rerun of the events that happened yesterday that we were anticipating. From the U.S. economic docket, we had the ADP employment change and, of course, the gross domestic product annualized for quarter two, all of which came in below expectations. And these are not palatable figures for the US dollar, as we saw how the markets reacted to this event as the dollar nosedived all the way to the downside yesterday. Now, today, Thursday, August 31, we are looking forward to the core personal consumption expenditure. And for those who don't know what this is all about, well, this is an index that measures inflation by excluding volatile food and energy prices, offering insight into overall price trends. Well, the rising core PCE may lead to expectations of tighter monetary policy, bolstering the currency. Lower reading might indicate looser policy and weaken the currency. So the previous data for the, hold on a second, the previous data for the core personal consumption expenditure came in at 0.2% for the month-on-month, and then 4.1% for the year-on-year for July. However, the consensus for this month is roughly around the same with what we had the previous month. So we shall be looking forward to what the actual data is going to be like. Will it be just as expected, below expectation, or even beyond expectation? But one thing for sure here is, as technical traders, what we are going to be doing is to sniff into the current market structure, looking out for patterns and structures that will help us to position ourselves ahead of these events. So with this information gathered here, let's dive right into the business. So as usual, the first asset we are going to be taking on this morning is going to be the US All Spot. And in fact, since the beginning of the week, we have been buying this asset. And in fact, we are profitable at this point in time. And to start with, I would like us to run through how the week started for us here on the 1 hour time frame, what we saw, and what led to the idea of buying this asset. Now, if you look at the beginning of the week, price was most of the time trading below the key level at the $80 mark. But interestingly, we had a range where we saw how price was confined within the key level and the $79.50 level to emphasize the level of indecision at that point in time. And you know how we use our key level, our flat channels in this community, especially when we have uncertainty in the market like this. We exercise patience, waiting for price action to either break out of the resistance line or the support line of that channel to give us an opportunity to either buy or sell. Now, during the early hours of the New York session on Monday, we saw price broke out of that level, came back into structure. Though we moved our stop loss, of course, you must have moved your stop loss accordingly. Remember what we always reiterate here in this community: whenever price moves significantly well in your favor, we move our stop loss immediately to secure the current positions while we look out for more opportunities. Now, price came back into that zone, as you will see. Excuse me. And then we saw breakout again of the $80 mark, which welcomed buying opportunity. And since that moment, we have been buying this asset. Now, we added more positions at the breakout of key levels such as the $80.60 level as we projected. Excuse me, please. I'm sneezing here. So we had another breakout of the $81.50 level, which triggered more opportunities in this market. So we currently should be having a minimum of 3 positions running in profit, or D. Sorry about that, please. So on the US All Sports, we have a minimum of 3 positions running. And if we look at the accumulated figures here, on the first position, we have about 160 pips in profit. And from the second position, we have about 100 pips, making a total of 260, while the third position is having about 18 pips in profit, giving us roughly about 270, 280 pips in total. Now, for those who took advantage of this opportunity, those who are part of this profitable journey so far this week, congratulations to you and kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on these opportunities. Now, for those who still have a buy position running at this point in time, you do want to be moving your stop loss accordingly, secure this current position, and of course, remember that we do want to give enough room for price action to breathe. And in that regard, I will be suggesting that anywhere below the $81.30 level and the $81 area seems most appropriate to move all stop losses to. As of course, let's see if the market will continue this uptrend, and if it does want to do some retracements, let's have enough room for price action to play out. Now, with a well secured position at this point, what is going to be our next line of action? How are we going to continue buying the US oil spot today, or are there tendencies that sellers could come in at any point in time? Now, before we go into the details of what our expectations is going to be like today, I would love us to go through the higher time frame one more time to see how the nature of price action is on that chart, and of course use the information we have gathered there in collaboration with what we have on the 1 hour time frame to make a well-informed trading decisions. Now, on the 4 hours time frame, this is where we started our analysis at the beginning of the week, and in fact, we took into consideration the nature of price action since the mid-month of June, and of course, it is quite clear that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum. And in fact, we have a trend line here after connecting the series of higher lows, which further emphasize the strength of the buyers in this market. Then in addition to that, key level was the $78.50 area, a major determinant of price action since the mid-month of July. As you will see here, after price broke above this level, every attempt by the sellers to break down has been met with strong resistance from the buyers. And in fact, if we fast forward into about a couple of weeks ago, we saw that despite the strong bearish momentum that gripped the market a couple of weeks ago, I think last week's trading session, we saw how it became difficult for sellers to break through that area. So as a result of this, we had that area identified as our demand zone. And of course, one interesting thing about that demand zone is the fact that it also shares a confluence with that ascending trend line, hereby supporting the idea of looking out for more buying opportunities. Now, in addition to that demand zone were a couple of one level and a trend line. The level here was the $80 mark, which is a strong psychological area considering the round figure of that price. And in fact, we agreed at the beginning of the week that this is what we shall be using to guide our trading activity for this week. And as long as price remains above that key level, we will be looking out for patterns and structures that support the idea of buying that asset. And one more interesting thing about that key level is the fact that it also shares a confluence with that descending trend line there. And what we were looking out for at the beginning of the week were confirmations that this trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt, which of course is what we saw here, and price since then has continued to move to the upside. Now, during our live session yesterday, we acknowledged a very important level here at the $81.50 area, which of course has also been a major determinant of price action since the beginning of this month. Now, let me zoom into what happened here during the second week of this month. We saw price break down the structure, and since the breakdown happened, that level had continued to be a seller's niche. Now, price action was back into that structure during our live session yesterday, and we anticipated that a breakout of this level will definitely be welcoming more buy positions, remember. And as you will see right now, price remains above that area, so we shall be looking forward to more opportunities if price action will break out of the $81.80 level. So you do want to be adding this level into the structures you have on your charts right now. So with the information we have gathered here on the 4 hours time frame, it is quite clear that this bullish momentum is still very strong, and if price action will break out of the $81.80 level, we shall be looking out for more opportunities to buy. So now with this being said here, let's scale back down into the 1 hour time frame. So on the 1 hour time frame here, I would like to acknowledge that price action has been finding higher lows since the beginning of this month, and as a result of that, I want us to have a trend line that we shall be using to guide our trading activity for today. So I would like to give this a green color, then bring back our candle charts and do some little adjustment to allow the trend line capture majority of this pivot low. So beautiful now. So we have an ascending trend line that will be guiding our trading activity for today. Now, what this simply means here is that as long as price remains above the ascending trend line and of course above the $81.50 level, we shall continue to look out for patterns and structures that support the idea of buying, while we also look out for more opportunities to add more position to our existing trade at the breakout of the $81.80 level. So this is how we are going to maintain a bullish bias here in this particular market. However, if in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities, you know how we do it in this community, we also want to keep tabs with the opposite direction too as well. Now, in that regard, let us look at the potentials that sellers have in this particular market and what is it that we want to see on this chart that will make us negate the idea of buying and start considering selling the US oil spot. Now, if we look at what has been going on here since the New York session yesterday, we saw how price got into the $81.80 level. We saw selling pressure resume around that area, giving us an insight into a potential barrier for buyers to break out of that level. And in fact, if we look at what has been going on here in the last couple of hours now, we have a sharp rejection of the $81.80 level one more time. And if price action does not break out of the $81.80 level and selling pressure persists below this level, there are chances that we could have some selling opportunities come in. And in as much as we have that idea in mind, in addition with this ascending trend line, we shall be looking out for the breakdown of the structure to consider selling the US oil spot. So selling the US oil spot today will need price action to break down both the $81.50 level and of course the ascending trend line to start considering selling. Now remember that we are not going to be getting too excited at this point in time, as we will need some confirmation to happen before we jump into a position. Now what we shall be looking out for here is a breakdown of the structure happen, then we scale down into a lower time frame where we shall be looking out for signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above the ascending trend line. And of course this scenario will reflect on the chart as a retest of structure, continuous selling pressure below this area to incite a sell-off. Now, one thing we should take note of here is that if price action breaks down the $81.50 level at any point in time, inciting selling opportunities, we want to take note that this is a counter trend opportunity. And since it's a counter trend opportunity, we want to be on standby to ensure that we move our stop losses accordingly as soon as price move in our favor, as anything could still happen here. The bullish momentum could still trigger at any point in time to incite the trend continuation. So if price breaks down, please ensure you're on standby to always move your stop loss accordingly as price action moves in your favor. So these are my views here on the US oil spot for today, so you can see how important the current structure is. So we have the $81.80 level, welcoming more buying opportunities if price breaks out of that structure. We have the ascending trend line to support the uptrend continuation, while the breakdown of both the ascending trend line and the $81.50 level will make us to start considering selling this asset for today. So this is my view here on the US oil spot. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever, while we also use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading activity for today. So I see your comment here from 51662326, who is asking what this is all about. Well, since you're just coming in, I will just run through that quickly. So what we do here, we come together as a community, as technical traders in anticipation of the New York session on a daily basis. So we come here to review how well our positions are doing. So we have a handful of assets that we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So we come here to see how well they are doing, and at the same time manage our positions, while we also look out for more trading opportunities ahead of the New York session. So this happens on a daily basis, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time. So that is what we simply do here as a community. So you are welcome on board. So I do hope you are a trader. So I encourage you to stay tuned in and be part of the session. The more time you spend with us, the better you get to understand how things works here, and eventually be able to use the information you have gathered here to make your own independent trading decisions. So 51662326, welcome on board, and I do hope I have made justice to your inquiry. So with that being said here, and in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page, so we shall be moving right into the next financial assets on our watch list. So the next financial asset on our watch list for today's trading session is the USTech100, popularly known as the NASDAQ. Now on the USTech100, we have been doing pretty well since the beginning of the week, as we have been buying. And in fact, if you are still having your buy positions running at this point in time, you should be currently having about 1, 2, 3, 4 positions running in profit at this point in time. And for those who are part of this profitable journey so far this week, well done to you, and kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. Now, before we kickstart the session, before we go into the details of what to expect today, I would like us to run through what really happened at the beginning of the week and what led to the idea of us buying this asset. Now, right here on the 1 hour time frame, the first thing we observed was our price was initially trading below our key level for the week. You know how we use our key level in this community. Let me remind you, when price action remains below the key level, we look out for selling opportunities, and when price action breaks out of the key level, we look out for buying opportunities. Now, initially at the beginning of the week, price was trading below the key level, but confined within a range between the $15,000 mark and of course the $14,930 level, to emphasize the level of indecision at that point. But considering the fact that price action has been on a very strong bullish momentum in the last couple of months in this market, we consider the potential of an uptrend continuation, where the breakout of the $15,000 mark will be all we need to capitalize on an uptrend continuation. And in fact, we saw the breakout of that structure happen on Monday. In fact, the market came back to do a retest of the structure multiple times before the bullish momentum began. And in fact, we kept on adding more positions at the breakout of levels such as the 15,100, and we also added one more at the breakout of the 15,200 325 is it, and of course the 15,400 level. So it has been quite a profitable trade for everyone in this community. And let's see what's the accumulation of pips that is if you still having your buy position running at this point in time. So for the first position, had a breakout of the $15,000 mark. If you still have your position running, that is currently running with about 470 pips. Then we have the breakout of the 15,100, which also is running with over 340 pips, while the third position here from the 15,325 is running with about 130 pips, and the fourth position here is currently running with about 55 pips in profit. So we have a total of close to 700 pips in profit only on the USTech100 in the space of 3 days. So once again, congratulations to everyone who has been part of this profitable journey. Now, if you still have a buy position running at this point, you do want to move your stop loss right now to secure your position at this point, as this is what we normally do when price action moves significantly well in our favor. And from the current market structure we have here, it is most appropriate that we have our stop losses sitting anywhere below the 15,400 and the 15,325. Remember, we do want to give enough room for price action to breathe. So with a well-secured position at this point in time, what is going to be our next line of action? Are we going to continue buying the USTech100, or is it likely that sellers will come in as we begin to notice some selling pressure around the 15,490 since the later part of the New York session yesterday? Now, for us to go into the details here, we would like to scale up into the higher time frame for us to have an holistic perspective into what is going on in this market, and of course refresh our memories on what we did talk about this at the beginning of this week. So scaling up into the daily time frame, let's run through this quickly. Now on the daily time frame, we took into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of this year. And of course, it is quite clear that the market has been on a strong bullish momentum, as you will see here. And after connecting the series of higher lows, we have an ascending trend line to work with. And as long as price remains above our ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable buying that asset. And in fact, in the last couple of weeks, we can see how buy pressure resumed again just right above our ascending trend line. And in fact, in the space of the last 8 months, price is yet to break down this ascending trend line, which further confirms how strong this trend line is. And if price still remains above the trend line, then it makes quite a lot of sense that we continue to look out for buying opportunity. Now, at the beginning of this week, we saw price action right around that ascending trend line, as you will see here. And when we scale down into the 4 hours time frame to see how the market was reacting to that area, we had this simple setup to guide our trading activity for this week. Now, one of the things we acknowledge here was our key level, which we agreed that we shall be using to guide our trading activity for this week. So a breakout of that structure definitely will make us look out for buying opportunities here. Now, in addition to that key level at the $15,000 mark was this descending trend line, which buttresses how sellers have took over this market since the beginning of this month. Now, we saw the breakout of that trend line last week, both the breakout of the trend line and of course of that key level, giving us signs that the descending trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt. And we all know that from a technical standpoint, when we notice that price action breaks out of a key structure such as this descending trend line, we expect that at some point in time, price is likely going to come back, retest the trend line that was broken with the anticipation of an uptrend continuation, which was exactly what happened here for us this week. And with price action around our key level at the beginning of the week, we went down to the 1 hour time frame to position ourselves to capitalize on this move. Now for this week now, we have an ascending trend line which we spotted here yesterday, as you will see, after connecting the structure. Now with the appearance of selling pressure that we notice on the 1 hour time frame, remember we noticed some selling pressure there, is it likely that we might be seeing some profit taking activity today, which will of course reflect on the chart as a retracement of that impulsive move we've been witnessing since the beginning of the month of this week. And considering today being the last trading day of the week, which is always peculiar with profit-taking activities, we have no other choice than to consider the potentials of sellers too at this point. And if the selling pressure we observed on the 1 hour time frame persists, we might likely be seeing the breakdown of the 15,400 to incite a retracement of that impulsive move, probably into that trend line in anticipation of an uptrend continuation, or in fact price could break down the trend line to incite a sell-off back into that $15,000 mark, which also shares a confluence with that ascending trend line we identified on the higher time frame. So we are in a very crucial moment in the market, and considering today being the last trading day of the week needs us to be a little bit much more conscious in taking a decision for today. So now with this information we have gathered here on the 4 hours time frame, let's scale down into the 1 hour time frame. Now things I say here will now make a whole lot of sense. Now scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, this is where our center of focus is going to be. Now one thing we've observed here since the later part of the New York session is how it has become difficult for buyers to break out of this level, as you will see multiple rejection of that area characterizing the presence of sellers at this juncture in the market, which is also make it very important for us to ensure that we've moved our stop loss and secure this position, as if the selling pressure persists below the 15,490, there are chances that we could be seeing some retracement move, which could be as a result of profit-taking activities back into those trend lines I identified on the 4 hours and daily time frame. Now with this scenario, let us talk about the potentials of sellers here. First of all, considering the selling pressure we have been noticing here. Now if we take into consideration the impulsive move that brought us to this point, you will notice that there are chances that we could have a reversal pattern here. And in fact, I'm beginning to see something that looks like an head and shoulder pattern, where this area will be the left shoulder, and the highest point here for this week will be serving as the head, where price might likely come back into the 15,325, where it transitioned into the right shoulder to incite a sell-off in this market. Now if this is going to be the case, then definitely the 15,325 level will be serving as the neckline of this potential reversal pattern. So I'm not saying that this reversal pattern has formed yet. I'm just projecting what it might likely look like if a retracement move will come in from the structure. So if we have a neckline below the around the 15,325, then we of course want to be looking out for selling opportunities if price action breaks down that level. But if we look at the distance between where price is at this moment and the potential neckline, you will see we have over 130 pips move. So are we going to wait for the whole 130 pips move to happen before we join a sell position? Of course, no. Let's see if we can see structures we can use to maximize the potential of this bearish move, that is joining the bearish momentum even before the breakdown of the 15,325 level happens. Now to do this, I want to be using the 15,400 level. If price breaks below this level, I will be looking out for selling opportunities here. Now if we go to the past, you will see how this level has been a selling niche. That was on Wednesday, that was yesterday. We saw selling niche around that area before it was broken here. Now if price action will break back down below this area following the selling pressure from the 15,490, then I will be looking for a retest of structure to join the bearish move. And if price action goes on to break down the 15,325, we shall be adding more sell positions to our existing trade. Now, one thing I would like us to take note of here are the trend lines we identified on the daily time frame and of course on the 4 hours time frame. And one of the trend lines here is the one we spotted at the beginning of this week, and of course this level, this line has been supporting the bullish momentum that started this week. So we shall wait and see how the market will react to that trend line somewhere around the 15,200 level to see how if we are going to be adding more sell positions or getting ready to join an uptrend continuation if the emergence of buy pressure appears around that area. And if it goes to drop to the downside, we look out for more selling opportunities. Then we use the $15,000 mark and the major ascending trend line we identified on the daily time frame as a yardstick to guide if we are going to be adding more positions or not. Now, with the idea of selling at this point in time below the 15,400, we cannot ignore the potentials of buyers too. And considering the nature of the momentum since the beginning of the week, a breakout of the 15,490 will be a good idea to look out for more opportunities to buy. Now, there are two ways to taking advantage of this opportunity. For those who are already profitable on the USTech100 so far this week, then definitely you can afford to leverage on the profit you had made so far this week to test waters above the 15,490. Now, if price breaks out, you have a buy stop order, capitalize on that move, and if it doesn't work as expected, you'll still be on the positive side of your portfolio on the USTech100. However, for those who are joining for the first time, that is for those who are coming in on a clean slate, then I will be suggesting that you remain patient here as you would need some confirmation to happen before jumping into a position. And what you want to look out for is a breakout happen first of all. Once we sight the breakout, scale down to the lower time frame to look out for retest of structure. It could reflect on the chart as a retest of the 15,490. It could even come to as low as this area before an uptrend continuation happens. But most importantly, we see a breakout, retest at any level, then we can join the bullish move. So this is how we are going to be managing our positions on the USTech100 for today. So our center of focus is basically between the 15,490 and the 15,325, which of course you do want to be marking out on your chart as you will be needing it as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So if you have any questions regarding what I just explained so far, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions before we move on to the next financial assets. All right. So, in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So, we shall be moving right into the next financial asset on our watch list for today. So, the next financial asset on our watch list for today is the GBPUSD, and in fact, we are already experiencing another phenomenal bullish momentum here in the last 48 hours. And in fact, we are very profitable despite a negative start to the week. Remember, we had a couple of stop losses as we took advantage of some sell positions at the beginning of the week. But thank goodness we were able to recoup the losses we incurred and in fact had some profit on top of it. Before we go on, let's run through how the week started for us here and what led to the idea of buying this asset. Now, at the beginning of the week, it was quite clear that price action was confined within our key level at the 1.26 area and the 1.25790 level. However, the appearance of this engulfing bearish candle at the beginning of the week was something that we saw that made us consider selling the GBP USD. And with this scenario here, we felt that, okay, if price breaks down the support line of that range, we shall be jumping into a sell position. And of course we did, but unfortunately, buy pressure resumed in this market, taking us out of that position. Then we also had the privilege of joining again, as you will see here, and of course it did not happen. As you see, price continue to go to the upside. Now we positioned ourselves above the key level, had the 1.26 that was on Tuesday. We capitalized on that move, and since that moment, we have been buying the GBP USD as we took advantage of levels such as the 1.263, the 1.265, and of course the 1.267 to add more position to our existing trade. So it has been quite an interesting week for us on the GBP USD. Like I said, we started on a negative note, but we were able to recoup what we lost so far this week. And in fact, for those who had this buy position on Tuesday, we had price moved over 140 pips before this bearish momentum began. Well done to everyone who has been part of this profitable journey. Now, with the situation we have right now, definitely if you had moved your stop losses accordingly, you should be out of all buy positions at this point in time. So personally, I took advantage of some selling opportunities here, and I will be sharing with you in a moment why I decided to sell the GBPUSD this morning, and let's see if there are more opportunities to sell or there are chances that buyers could take over this market. Now, when I was trying to observe and decipher what will happen today, this is what I was able to come up with here. Now, one of the things you will notice here is that since the New York session yesterday and the early hours of today, we saw how price was trapped within this range. That's the 1.2745 and the 1.27120 area to emphasize the level of indecision at this point. And in fact, within that range is a descending trend line, as you will see. After connecting the series of lower highs, we had signs that sellers are trying to push price to the downside. And if at any point in time a breakdown of the 1.27120 happens, it will be a beautiful opportunity to sell. So you can see what led into the idea for me selling the GBPUSD at this point. So with this scenario in mind, I looked forward to selling opportunities below the structure. And in fact, for those who took advantage of that opportunity, well done to you too for identifying that, as you will currently having over 30 pips running in profit. And if you have a sell position at this point, you do want to be moving your stop loss right now to secure this current position. Remember, the momentum here is bullish as price action had consistently found higher highs and higher lows in the market since the beginning of the week. And we still cannot ignore the potential that buyers could still take over this market. So let's ensure we move our stop losses if you have a sell position at this point, while we wait and see how the market will be reacting to the next level, which happens to be the 1.26700 area. Now, for us to continue selling at this point, we will need price to go on to break down the 1.26700 area, as you will see here. 1.267 as you will see here, and of course the 1.265 as you will see here too, are areas where if price goes on to break down those structures, we shall be looking out for more selling opportunities. Now, for those who had missed out on this opportunity, well, we're still going to look forward to chances that the market will give us another opportunity to join. Now, from a technical standpoint, when price breaks down of a key structure such as what we have here, we expect that some point in time price may come back to retest the structure. Now, if a retest happens here, you can see what a wonderful confluence we have here, where both the ascending, the descending trend line, and of course the 1.27120 shares a beautiful confluence. So if price comes back into the structure and we begin to see selling pressure on our lower time frame around this area, it will be a beautiful opportunity to add more sell position, and for those who missed out on the sell position, to join the downtrend continuations. So let's see how this will play out going on today. Now, in as much as the potentials of sellers are gradually building up, we cannot ignore the potentials of buyers too. Considering the fact that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum, we could see a scenario where price could climb back above and in fact break out of this descending trend line to incite an uptrend continuation. And if that is going to be the case, we want to be on standby above the 1.2712 to capitalize on that move. So a breakout like this, retest on our lower time frame, will be all we need to be part of an uptrend continuation. Now, a further breakout of the 1.27450 level will be welcoming more buying opportunities in this market. So this is how we are going to be capitalizing or managing our position here on the GBPUSD for today. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. And of course, you do want to be marking out those levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading activities for today's trading session. All right, sorry for the break in transmission. Please, I had to sort out some issues here. So we shall be moving right into the last financial asset on our watch list for today. So with that being said, let's move in. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the XAUUSD, my favorite, popularly known as the gold spot. Now on the XAUUSD, we had quite an interesting and phenomenal week as we've been buying this asset since the beginning of the week. Now let's run through how the week started for us here and what did we see that led to the idea of buying. Well, at the beginning of the week, we initially acknowledged a trend line, a descending one in fact, as we connected a series of lower highs since last week, Thursday. And with the presence of the descending trend line coupled with the multiple selling pressure, we noticed around the 1,917 and the 1,916 zone, we decided to capitalize on a bearish move. Now we saw the range here where price was caught within the $1,917.60 and the $1,914.50 area, giving us a flat channel to work with. And with that scenario here, I told you how I sold the XAUUSD here on Monday morning, but unfortunately price moved against me, taking it out of that position in a loss. And one thing we observed during our live session on Monday was the appearance of buy pressure around the $1,914.50 level. So despite the lower highs, despite the descending trend line, the appearance of buy pressure around that area was a clear sign that there are chances that price action could break out of that descending trend line. Now, to capitalize on that move, we agreed to position ourselves right above the 1,916 to capitalize on the uptrend continuation. And in fact, it also shares a beautiful confluence with our descending trend line, where of course a breakout of the descending trend line would be a beautiful signal that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt. And in fact, for those who missed out on the first buy position, the market was kind enough as it came back, retest the structure, and since that moment, we have been buying the XAUUSD. And fast forward to Tuesday, Wednesday, we had multiple entries which we took advantage of as we added positions at the breakout of the 1,920, 1,924, 1,926, and of course the breakout of the 1,938 level yesterday as we rode that move all the way into the 1,949 as we saw price this last position scooped in over 100 pips before this bearish momentum began. So congratulations to everyone who has been part of this profitable journey this week. Now, with the current situation we have here, what is going to be our next line of action? Well, first of all, for those who still have a buy position, personally, I have my buy position closed yesterday, but if you still have a buy position, I will be advising you to move your stop loss anywhere below the 1,943 and the 1,940 zone. Of course, we do want to give enough room for price action to breathe. Now, with the situation here, how do we intend to maximize or capitalize on a potential move from this area? Now, this morning, while I was trying to decipher what the next line of action would be, the first thing I did here was to acknowledge the uptrend scenario in this market, and to do that, I connected the series of lower highs, which gave me this ascending trend line that we shall be using to guide our trading activity for the later part of this week. Now, depending on how price reacts to this trend line will determine where price will be heading to for the later part of this week. And you know how we do it. When price remains above our ascending trend line, we shall continue to look out for patterns and structures that support the idea of buying that asset. Now, with the way things are going right now, if you look at what is happening, it appears that the trend line has been broken to the downside. And in fact, we have a level here which has been negating all attempt by the sellers to break through that area. And that is the 1,944 level. Now, since yesterday, we can see price has been trapped within a range here, where of course I want to be using this flat channel as a yardstick to guide my trading activity for today, where a breakout or breakdown of that range will be an opportunity to join a trading opportunity. Now, looking at the structure and looking at the range, you can see that within that range, we have signs the sellers are gradually gaining momentum. As you will see, we have lower highs, giving us a descending trend line, which of course we shall be using to guide our move for today. Now, let's talk about the potentials of buyers from this current structure, especially after considering how strong the momentum has been since the beginning of this week. Now, for me to consider buying here, I would like to see price break out of this descending trend line, retest the structure, followed by buying pressure on my lower time frame to join an uptrend continuation, where we shall be looking out for more opportunities to maximize this move if price action goes on to break out of the 1,949 level. However, if price is unable to break out of this descending trend line, then the breakdown retest of the 1,944 or this descending trend line will be all we need to confirm a momentum shift. Now, how far will that retracement, that momentum will go is what we don't know here, but of course we shall be using the structures we have on the chart to guide that. So we have 1,938, 1,935, and in fact we have a scenario at the 1,920 where this could be a maximum point where sellers pressure could push price to before an uptrend continuation happens, which will be dovetailing to a maximum of 240 pips. Now, for us to have a better perspective of the potentials of sellers here, let's scale up into the 4 hours time frame, where I would like to share with you an interesting scenario here. So look at what has been going on here since the we talked about how this current market structure has been bearish since the beginning of the week. And we saw this descending trend line since mid-July, which was finally broken during the early days of this week, as we saw here. And from a technical standpoint, when price breaks out of a key structure such as this descending trend line, we expect that at some point in time, price may come back, retest that structure in anticipation of an uptrend continuation. So this is where the idea of selling opportunities come in on the 1 hour time frame if price breaks down the 1,944 level. So I will be hoping and looking forward to price coming this far, but if it doesn't, we are always on standby to capitalize on the next move, as we have multiple levels we identified here to guide our trading decisions for today's trading session. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. Our center of focus for today is basically between the 1,949 and the 1,944 level, where we shall remain patient and see where the breakout or breakdown will happen to guide our next course of action. So it's on this note I would like to call it a day here. I don't know if there are any questions. If there are, please feel free to let me know in the comment section. So it has been a wonderful moment. We were able to attend to 4 financial assets for today. We had the USOILSPOT, the XAUUSD, the USTech100, and of course the GBPUSD, where we were able to identify simple setups using trend lines, key levels, and chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the financial, into the price, into the market structure, and of course anticipate the New York session today. So I do hope we marked out these levels on our charts, and I'm very confident that we are well equipped to get ready for any potential opportunity during the New York session today. And for those who are joining us for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain one or two things from what we discussed here today. But I encourage you to stay tuned in and be part of our subsequent sessions, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how this works and eventually be able to use the information we have gathered here to make your own independent trading decisions. So it's on this note I wish you all the best of luck today, and I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to review how well this financial asset has been doing, and at the same time get ready for the first day of the new month, which is tomorrow, and which simultaneously is is the same day as the last trading day for the week. Do have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye bye.